Ready to go?
Awesome. Yep.
Okay. Welcome to Bonn Park. I'm Sara Geidlinger.
And I'm Marshall Ward.
And I'm Taryn McKinnon. I'm a music therapist and music together teacher in KW. And I'm here to talk with Sara and Marshall today.
Welcome to Bonn Park.
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 Can you do us a favor?
Can you please leave us a 5-star review, like or subscribe to our show, and share with your friends? We'd also love it if you followed us on social media.
We are a homegrown community project, and every bit helps. On with the show. This is it.
Taryn McKinnon, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
We're very excited to talk to you. And we connected from a past guest, Ian Whitman.
Mm-hmm. This is true.
Who I think Ian was the season opener for our season 2. And we were very excited to get to know him and hear some of his music. And immediately after, he said, I know who you have to talk to. And he sent us your contact info. And then, of course, with COVID, there were a few hiccups and we're finally meeting.
Here we are.
Zoom, a quote unquote meeting via Zoom today. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your work? This is a fascinating field that you're in. And I have to imagine incredibly rewarding.
It is. I think I'm pretty lucky. I have a lot of fun at work most days. I'm a music therapist first and foremost, I think. And that's a very broad profession. There are music therapists who work in a lot of different places: long-term care, mental health, palliative care, childbirth, the prison system. I work exclusively with children. I do a lot of work with children in the vein of speech and language development. That's kind of my my area of interest, my area of specialty at this point. So yeah, I've come to that, and I work generally with children under the age of 10, and I see them in their homes. I see them in their schools, and I've seen them in group settings as well. And then when I take that hat off, I'm a music together teacher. And so 4 or 5 times a week, I get to make music with amazing families and their young children. And it's just like a dance party, making music with a bunch of people who don't mind, making animal noises and being a little bit silly and having fun with their kids. So
is music therapy, is that similar to art therapy in the way that somebody does an arts degree, a fine arts degree, and then they go off to Montreal to do a program? In that case, for art therapy, is music therapy something? Is it graduate work after you've done a music program?
They're both. So I have an undergraduate degree from Wilfrid Laurier. I have a 4-year honors Bachelor of Music Therapy with a major in psychology. After I finished there, they have since added a master's program to Laurier, and there's 2 options. You can go into the master's program with an undergraduate degree in music therapy, or you can go into the master's program. It's a 2-year program then, with a related, like an allied degree. So you're coming in with some kind of knowledge that's going to be applicable to you in your music therapy career. And in that 1 year, you kind of get the hyper focus. There is a PhD, there are PhD programs, but not here in the city. So
I have a question about the speech and language portion. I mean,
sure.
Just as a human who likes music, I find it's so easy to learn a little song in another language, a nursery rhyme or something else. Or, we've all seen, oh gosh, I wish I remembered her name right now. I almost want to Google it so I don't screw it up. There's a Dutch singer who has been debilitating stutter. And when she sings, she does not have it. And it is shocking. And her voice is gorgeous. And I've, of course, hadn't thought about her for years and years until right now. And I can't think of her name at the moment. But music can do these things for us. Why can we learn little melodies? And why can we do these things when we can't normally, or we don't necessarily speak the language?
Right. That's a super great question. And I hope I can do the answer justice. There's a few reasons. One of them is music is something that goes all over your brain. So speech is generally generalized in one half of your brain. And they follow this with functional MRIs. They can see what lights up when you're talking to someone, and then what lights up when you're singing or playing music to someone. And there's a lot more areas. So you've just got more surface area that's activating. And so more parts of your brain are engaged. So if you think about how you learned the alphabet, I can almost guarantee you learned it from that song. And that if I even hum that song, either those words or Twinkle Twinkle Little Star or one of the other, because there's like 5 different sets of lyrics to that song, but those words will play. I can't sing that song to you without your brain. It doesn't shut off. So our brains link those things. And it's really motivating. If you're left hanging at the end of a phrase of a song, like you might not know the words to your favorite song, but if someone like stopped it at the last word of a phrase, you could probably fill that in, or even the last couple of words. And that's where kids will start to sing as well. Repetitive phrases in songs or songs that they've heard lots of times, they'll start to sneak in. If I pull back and I don't sing the last few words, they'll start to fill those in. So does that answer that question?
Oh, it totally does. I was just listening to a soundtrack this morning that I haven't listened to since I was maybe a late teenager, maybe 18 or 19. And it was all right there, right in the front of my mind. And I was shocked.
It's wild. Hey,
yeah.
The Music Together program that I teach, it's from birth up to age 5 is the mixed ages program. And it's a 3-year cycle of classes, of curriculum. And so if your child does it from birth to age 5, they're going to repeat curriculum. And parents will always say, oh, well, I've already done this. And then we say, you have to see the magic though. Like that child who learned this music at maybe 6 to 9 months of age, it comes back and they're a 4-year-old now. And as much as you don't think it's in there, like it's tucked away in a drawer. And once they've heard it again, they're so quick to jump in and play with it, and they can do things with it, and they really own it then, because they're like, I know this song, this is part of me, and they can just jump right into it. Music therapy didn't have a lot of quantitative research behind it for a long time, and now with things like functional MRIs, we're able to show a lot more what's happening in the brain and why the things that we do that we know are effective in engaging clients, why they work. And it's because of what we're seeing in those fMRIs.
This must be an amazing time for you as well. I think about in the last year, just how many sensory toys and little things to play with they're in toy stores, they're in that showcase store. I think there's one in her hand,
actually.
Yeah, at Conestoga Mall. They're in all sorts of different kinds of stores. They're in the record store in the mall. You know, they're just suddenly, this past year, I'd say they've really blown up, eh?
Yeah, they're everywhere. Everyone wants to have a little something too. I usually have a guitar right when I'm sitting here, and so when I sat down, I went, "Oh, I'm gonna fidget like crazy. I better grab a little something," because I don't have a guitar to grab onto while we're chatting.
You can feel free to play us music.
One of my kids just got this plastic slug in the mail, and it says to help calm you, and he plays with it.
Oh, is it just like something rubbery kind of?
It's more plasticky. It's hard to explain, but it's like
movable parts.
Movable, yeah.
Oh, that's neat.
Oh.
Yeah. So why don't we backtrack a little bit and talk about how you got into this work?
I have to credit a family that I used to babysit for as a teenager. There was a family down the street from us that had 4 young kids, and the eldest child had a lot of different needs. I don't know what his diagnosis was. I didn't, as a teenager, know those things. And his mom just said to me one day, this is what you should do. You're going to take him to his music therapy appointment because I think this is what you should do. I was like, okay, I'll just do what I'm told. Sure. Off I go. And we go to his thing. And I sat there in it and I was just like, yeah, this is totally, I had kind of thought, oh, maybe I'll go teach kindergarten. I loved working with young kids. But I also enjoyed the musical side of my life. And when I saw it put together, it just clicked. And so that I just did what I was told. Someone said, this is what you should do. And I did it. So I went to Laurier and did the program there. And then I did an internship at some schools in the Waterloo Region District School Board. That was a program that was around then. And then I went out on my own, started my own practice in 2002.
That Laurier program is held in such high regard. What is it once you're inside that space that makes it so special?
a terrific program. When I can't speak to what the feeling is there now. The feeling when I was there many years ago now, it was so encompassing. It was, like I said, music therapy is such a broad field, and there's room for all of us there. And it was a very international teaching faculty. So we had Heidi Honenera-Kanan, and we had Dr. Colin Lee, and we had Carolyn Arneson. And those were kind of our three big teachers at the time, professors at the time. And they all brought these vastly different experiences and working lives and fields of knowledge. And we had access to everything. And there was, you could ask any question, and someone would know the answer, or someone would help you find out. And I think it's just, it's a really solid program built with high standards. There's a lot of expected of you, but there's a lot of opportunities given to you too. They want you to experience all the different ways that you could be in this profession. And I think it's working. Yeah.
And for anyone listening who says, oh, like, was thinking, this sounds cool, maybe this is something I want to do, or I know someone, like, what was your musical knowledge going into this program? Where were you at?
Yeah, so to get into the music therapy program, you do first apply and audition for the music program. So the first 2 years of the music therapy degree, you're in the regular music degree program. So I had taken piano lessons for many years as a child. I had my grade 8 Royal Conservatory and some theory, history, harmony. And I'd taken cello. I had learned cello in elementary school and high school, and took lessons for a few years from a KW symphony cellist to be able to audition and go to Laurier on that instrument. So I had a pretty solid background coming in, I think, and it just builds on that. So those first 2 years, it's your basic program, and then there's an intro to music therapy program in your second year, or course in your second year, and you re-audition and reapply for the year 3 and 4, which are then solidly music therapy programming.
When something as broad as music comes into play with autism and education regarding autism, that's like two very big worlds coming together. The learning curve for you must just be something huge.
Yeah, like I think it could be a 10-year degree, if I'm very honest. And I know people that I've talked to agree with that, because you only get a few short, possibly lectures on something as diverse as autism, and you can't possibly learn much from that. And you get, you have a lot of practicum experience in this program. So you have group practicum where you're working with another music therapist and your clients are a group. And then you also have an individual client where you're working one-on-one with a supervisor, but with that client. So you do have those practical experiences, but if you've met one person with autism, you've only met one person with autism. They're not the same. So I think that it's something that having the internship after you graduate, you really start to develop those skills and figure out where you want to work. And I think a lot of it is having to reach out and find yourself continuing education in fields that you're interested in. So for me, I've been able to work with a lot of speech language pathologists and doing joint sessions. And that's how I've garnered all of my knowledge about how to work with kids and where to step up expectations. If we're here, what's the next logical step for that child to develop into? If we're making no sounds, I don't start with these sounds that are harder to make versus these are your beginner sounds.
Oh, that's a great answer. So when you were talking about something specific like speech, where does that process begin? Like, how do you begin to help?
That's a great question. Most of the children that I work with, I will connect with their parent and I'll say, what are their speech and language goals? So most of them are working already with a speech language pathologist, whether through school or through private practices. And they'll say, well, these are the things we're working on, X, Y, Z, or that sort of a thing. I'll also take into account when the parent says, you know what, they're really interested in this, and we wish they could tell us more about it. We wish we could talk to them about it. Or we wish that they had the words to tell us when they're cold or they're hurt or you can work on and different ways of telling that. You can work on sign You can work with verbal language, and you can work with assistive communication devices. And I've worked with all of those in music therapy. I think for me, it's just working with what the client needs, where they are at that moment, and how we take the next step with them.
And are there these moments there where something is suddenly awakened to something where you're trying to work towards and wondering, I wonder if this can get us to where we're trying to get to, and then suddenly something happens and you're like, wow, like just something. Yeah. I love to hear about those experiences.
There's moments where, especially if you're in a group, and you've been working with several kids, and there's some that have more to say than others. And then from out of nowhere, someone pipes up with something, and you're like, I haven't heard you say anything in 6 months. And now you've got something to tell me. I think honestly, though, my favorite moments are when there's no talking, and that communication that happens when they realize that I'll follow them in the music. So if they're playing something on a drum and I somehow incorporate what they're doing, either by matching or imitating or just replying to what they've done with my instrument, whether I'm on a guitar or also on a drum, and they get it and they look at you like, really? And then they'll do something else to test you. And then you reply again or respond again. And then they're like, oh, game on. And I love that moment because they don't need any words. We're on the same level and we're in that moment. And that's a really special thing that I think you can only get from music like that.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like you could spend your whole life in your field and never understand the mystery of it all, though, especially if you're looking at language and music together. When I could just go see a rock band live in concert, I can't figure out how those four people can make that all happen and know how to communicate with each other and do what they do. But we're talking about something on another level now, where what you're doing, eh? Is that what you talk about a lot with your colleagues, is the mystery of trying to unlock how this all works?
I mean, we're such a diverse field. Everyone's trying to unlock those pieces. So there's people who are working in dementia care, and they're like, hey, these are things that I've learned that unlock doors or that engage people or that might be useful to you. And then there's people over in here, hey, I've learned this about. So it's hard because I feel like we're a really big tree with broad branches, and we don't all spend a lot of time in the trunk and the roots talking about just that basic piece. I think functional MRIs have been a great thing. I don't want to say that they're the be all and end all, but that was an exciting thing for me when I started to see research come out that actually showed me what was going on and then helped me figure out, okay, how can I use this information to more efficiently use music with my clients? And so I think we're starting to get there. We're taking steps towards it, but it's a hard thing. We're still a relatively new profession. As jobs go, we'll never be as old as a baker.
Marshall, let's take a break to hear from this week's sponsors. These are all local businesses that we truly believe in, and it's their support that keeps Bonn Park podcast going.
Bonn Park is supported by Wordsworth Books, located in the vibrant heart of Uptown Waterloo.
Celebrating 36 years, Wordsworth Books remains dedicated to stocking the very best in new Canadian and international fiction, thought-provoking nonfiction, cookbooks, DVDs, and a carefully curated selection of children's picture books and young adult novels. Co-owners Mandy Browse and David Worsley are happy to special order any title you are looking for, and pride themselves on being able to obtain the hard to find and the out of print. This is true. They have found a lot of titles for me and my family. Along with organizing between 15 and 20 author readings and other events each year, Wordsworth Books supports numerous book clubs for literary fiction, sci-fi and fantasy, mystery, books for babies, and several food-themed reading groups.
Support a local gem like Wordsworth Books, which is so much more than just a great bookstore. It is a one-of-a-kind gathering space and a vital part of the region's cultural community. Find Wordsworth Books online at wordsworthbooks.com or visit them at 96 King Street South in Uptown Waterloo.
You might even see us there. Bonn Park is supported by Herb and Good Family Funeral Home. We all come from the earth, and we all eventually return to the earth, ashes to ashes and dust to dust. So it makes sense that one of our most important cultural services, a funeral, be respectful of the planet. Urban Good Funeral Home is a pioneer of the so-called green funeral movement. They underwent an internal audit to identify practices that can provide excellent service to families and loved ones while minimizing the impact on the environment. These changes include phasing in replacing incandescent light bulbs with LEDs, along with utilizing the science of near formaldehyde-free embalming fluids. As the area's longest-serving family funeral home, Urban Good has helped people in the Waterloo region through difficult times over the past 77 years, and have the experience and flexibility to exceed your expectations. The caring staff, family ownership, personal guidance, facilities, and reasonable prices have become the hallmark of their service. They are steeped in tradition, but with a keen eye for more sustainable ways to provide their valuable service and support. Urban Good Family Funeral Home is located at 171 King Street South in Waterloo, or visit urbgood.com. Does your teen hate school? Looking for a safe learning environment for your teen, a place where they can feel like they belong? Aliud provides an alternative to mainstream high school, with a learning community that helps students find their own way to be successful in both life and learning. Aliud's program is for teens that aren't thriving in the conventional classroom. They offer a safe space for students to become active, self-motivated, lifelong learners. This self-directed learning program offers both remote learning and social meetups. An educational plan is created for each member and is based on a teen's interests, strengths, and academic goals. At Aliud, students become masters of their own education. There are many ways to learn. Choose the way your teen learns best. Choose Aliud. Now registering for 2022 and 23.
Bonn Park is supported by Heartbeat Hot Sauce.
All of Heartbeat's sauces are made with maximum flavor and balance in mind.
They've got a range of flavors including red habanero, jalapeno, pineapple habanero, blueberry habanero, piri-piri, and a scorching scorpion pepper sauce.
Heartbeat Hot Sauce ferments their peppers using traditional methods, then cooks them with a few simple, high-quality ingredients. They add no water, thickening agents, or chemical preservatives. Their sauce is fresh and natural.
Whether you're a spice junkie or have milder tastes, Heartbeat has a flavor for your palate.
You can find Heartbeat Hot Sauce in specialty shops like Vincenzo's and select Loblaws and Sobeys supermarkets.
Visit them at heartbeathotsauce.com and follow them on Instagram and Facebook.
Treat your tongue to some exciting new flavors that will raise your heartbeat. Boom, 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 boom.
Yeah. Bonn Park is supported by Tube Pro.
Have you ever floated around a water park or down a river on an inflated tube, or whooshed down a snowy resort hill on one?
If so, chances are you were riding a Tube Pro tube, especially if your tube was reliable, safe, and never deflating.
Tube Pro's Waterloo headquarters has been manufacturing high-quality river tubes, water park tubes, and snow tubes for resorts and outdoor outfitters around the world for over 20 years.
Their Tube Tracker kayak tube, which offers stability and fun for any skill level, is in use at various rental companies along the Grand River, and their tubes and rafts can be found at many water parks around Ontario.
You can buy any of their products for delivery from tubeproinc.com with pre-arranged curbside pickup option available.
They can get you floating, paddling, and enjoying the outdoors soon and safely. Whee!
And now back to the show. It's a lifelong necessary type of work, I think, because you spoke about babies and children and adults and patients with dementia. And I think we've all seen that video, the viral video of a very elderly woman with dementia, non-communicative, sits down at the piano and just goes for it, just absolutely starts playing hits as though it was yesterday. I think Take Me Out to the Ball Game was one of them, and there was a few other ones. And it's in there. It's in that mapped brain somewhere, hidden in there, tucked away, waiting to be opened up.
Yeah. It's a astonishing visual. I think I've seen lots of different videos of music therapists working with clients in long-term care settings who you just see the physical changes in their body, in their posture when something connects with musically. And sometimes that's the big win that day. It's like, oh, they sat up and attended to what was happening in group. Mm-hmm. And that's a big deal. That's a big thing that happened. And it's just amazing that music can have that effect on someone's whole entire being, right? Their body has sat up, their brain is engaged, their face, their body's engaged, right? With what's happening in that moment. And that takes a lot. from someone who is struggling with dementia. And so it's a really neat thing. It's how deep in your brain that music is, those musical memories that we have from our younger years that don't seem to leave us.
And what all instruments do you specialize in that you can play well?
Mm-hmm. You've told us about the piano and the cello, but you keep talking about guitar. And I'm like, when did this?
Right.
These are different animals.
Yeah.
Well, a piano is really hard to carry around in your car and engage with clients on. And ditto a cello. It's a big thing in between you. And there's a bow that I would definitely have poked somebody's face with by this point in time. Guitar is something that's required in the program at Laurier. You'd have a guitar techniques class because it is something that I would almost say every single one, but someone will prove me wrong that there's some music therapist out there that doesn't play guitar. But almost everyone does have, because it travels. You can play so many styles of music on it. You can be so engaging, and you can be this is COVID, so not close, but in olden times, you could be very close. I have played the guitar with a child in my lap between me and the guitar. I have played with them on the other side of the guitar. I played with them facing me on a guitar. It's more easy to just have that physical closeness. And over time, I've developed my guitar skills. They'll probably never be where my piano ones are because I took so many years of lessons on that. But I get through with it.
But the piano is that base too, right? Once you get that musical theory in, and obviously you went through the Royal Conservatory up to grade 8. Like once you get that bass in there, you are, I don't want to diss other instruments. I realize they're all very difficult, but that's the sort of the line where you start. And once you get that knowledge in there, you can apply that elsewhere.
For sure. I've had that conversation with my kids. Like, I just want you to get the basics, and I want you to be able to look at the music and kind of figure out what it means, and what you do with it from there is up to you. If you want to go play a French horn, if you want to go not play it, anything, if you want to go sing about it, if you want to go dance, whatever, you've got that foundation of what does the stuff on the paper mean? How does it translate here? And then you can take that and put it other places. I think it is a great bass instrument as far as I'm concerned too. Yeah.
Sometimes I hear classical musicians talk a bit about how when they hear pop music, they think about how simple the chords are sometimes, and just how something that can go right to the top and make people millions and millions of dollars is actually quite simple.
Great chords.
Yeah. And, but at the same time, obviously not everybody can be David Foster and write a song for, Celine Dion or Adele or anybody like that. There's certainly some mystery there, right? To what some of these people are able to do, and why so many of us can't do that.
Yeah. If we could figure out the mathematical magic behind that, we'd all be very rich individuals. Piano is a fun one. When I was still at Laurier and I had individual clients there was a piano in the space, and I've improvised with clients, as I talked about using a drum or a guitar and having that moment of meeting in the music. I've had that on a piano too. And it's just as special. I think sometimes though, for some people, there's an awareness of the piano and what it's supposed to sound like and what it's not. And I don't know which notes are right or wrong. There's like air quotes around that for people listening to the podcast, are right or wrong, because there aren't right or wrong notes. That's my job, is to make them sound good, whatever the client is playing. But I think that there's that, what's the word I'm looking for? That mystique of the piano, that it's for fancy, it's for classical trained musicians to use. And I'll just tap over here on my drum or my guitar. And I like breaking that down and saying, no, we can bang on the piano all you want. You want to just only play black notes? Let's only play that. You want to only play white notes? Okay. You want to play with our elbows? Let's see what happens. So I think breaking down that stigma of piano is fun, but it's really hard to carry on my back. So I'll continue to use my guitar most of the time.
I love that you're saying that, because I've actually heard some contemporary, modern, successful musicians say, I don't know how to read music or play the piano. I just sort of have figured out what sounds good to me. And a few friends have shown me some tips, and I make that work for me. Right. And they're accidentally or non-accidentally tapping into theory and melody that's going to work anyway, because they hear it.
Yeah, they pick it up.
Yeah.
I think music, I think our culture, especially North America, music is like for the gifted.
Mm-hmm.
That's how it's viewed. And
you
it's
have to be young and you have to be gifted. You can't just start any old time. That's what the stigma is, I guess.
Get the golden ticket on the reality show, or I'm sorry, you should never sing again. You can only buy tickets and experience music from the audience perspective. And I think that's wrong with all the capital letters.
Mm-hmm.
I think every person on the planet is born with the capability of being musical. It maybe they don't want to be a concert violinist. Maybe they don't have the opportunities to become a concert violinist, but they have the capacity within them to make music and to find joy from that. And we're so performance oriented and product oriented that this is something that is supposed to be perfect and it's supposed to sound good. And there are right notes and there are wrong notes, and there is good music and there is bad music. And I wish we could just dump all of that and just have music.
And when you graduated from your program, you made a decision to stay here in Waterloo region. What was behind that decision? Did you just see it as a place that was going to support you in your career?
Having Laurier here, there's a concentrated group of music therapists here because some of us didn't go very far. After I graduated, as I said, I had to do a 1,000-hour internship, and I did that in Cambridge, Kitchener-Waterloo area. And then once I had done that internship, I had also made some connections that became private clients. And so I started to develop my own business from that. I also got married, and my husband's job was here, and my family's not that far away, and his family's not that far away. And I think this is a terrific region. I can't say city because we're a bunch of cities joined together. And I like the vibe of it. I like that it's a small town that I'll run into people and go, oh, I know you from my kid's swimming lesson, or I've seen you at that thing. And then you see them somewhere else and you're like, oh, our lives intersect in more than one way. But it's also a big enough city that there's a lot of exciting things happening all the time. There's live music and there's theater and there's restaurants and all that. It's all happening.
Now, in your case, you went into music therapy, but if somebody graduates from Laurier's music program, is there anything to prepare them for the world after? What I mean is I'm familiar with both the University of Waterloo's and the prior Wilfrid Laurier Fine Arts program before that closed. And in that case, you go through a program to be a visual artist, and that's kind of like, now what? What are these artists?
Right.
What are these artists supposed to do now?
Here's your degree. Bye.
Yeah, there's no courses, and this is how you're going to hustle, right?
And how to have a business.
Yeah, but is there anything in place there in the music program to get you ready, or are you kind of on your own? And in your case, you went for music therapy.
Yeah, I'm thinking back because I'm old and it was a while ago, but I know that the Association of Music Therapists, and the Ontario Association and the National Association, have done things for interns that talk about how to run your business, how to start a business, how to structure your fees, because there's those are our organizations for that. At Laurier, we had visiting music therapists that would come in and lecture on a topic, and my memory might be fuzzy on this, but I'm really sure that I remember one of them being on private practice and just about this person's business and how they started a private practice and what they did and kind of how they structured it. Again, like I said, it could be a 10-year program, and this one lecture isn't all the information that you need, but it was a start to get you thinking about those things. And I think probably I got more of it from the associations after I had graduated.
Mm-hmm.
I was really intrigued when I heard you mention prisons and music therapy. Right. How does that work? I have some idea on how visual arts in prisons works and the great things that can come of that, but what does that look like, music therapy in prison?
I've never done it, so I can't tell you exactly what it looks like. That's a hard question. I think it can look like a lot of different things. It might look a lot like songwriting. That's something that I can see that would be useful in that population. Drumming circles, possibly, or using percussion, body percussion in different ways. Learning to be in music with someone in a group format, or even one-to-one. It's a give and take. So you do have to learn how to take turns, and you're learning to communicate in that. And there's a lot of skill development that can happen there. So without having ever been there, disclaimer in big, bold font, those are the types of interventions I can see being used in that population.
And I have to imagine your work with like babies, music for young children. There has to be some comments. It's like, really, like, because I know you mentioned earlier that, people are wondering, okay, what are they really getting from this? And then they realize, but how do you deal with those comments that are like, you really teach music to babies? Are they, you're not going to have a baby Beethoven here, that type of thing.
Yeah. The hot secret would be that I don't even tell this to all the families in my classes, but like the parents are the students.
Right.
My job isn't to teach music to their children. My job is to make music with them, it's a word that's sometimes overused, to empower them, to help them get rid of what we talked about earlier with our society placing all the value in music on performance and on product, and to just enjoy the process of making music, and to teach them all the valuable things that their child can get from being in this immersive experience. So our Music Together program is an immersion-based philosophy. Your 8-month-old is not going to do all the songs, and I don't want you to take their hands and make them play the drum the same way I do. I want you to play the drum the same way I'm playing the drum, and they're going to see 12 adults doing the same thing, and they're going to hear 12 adults doing the same thing. And if they're sitting on the floor and we're playing drums, they're going to feel 12 adults doing the same thing. And if we get up and dance and you're carrying them, they're feeling the music through you that way. So it's that immersive experience. That's the gold for the children, especially at that baby age, right? They're taking in everything in their environments, and they learn through play. So yeah, they're going to chew on the instruments, but they're still taking in what we're doing. So my job is making the music fun for the parents.
Yeah, of course. And you're creating an experience for them,
Mm-hmm. And hopefully giving them the confidence to take that home and continue to make music with their child, because a music education can't happen in 45 minutes once a week for 10 weeks.
There's a pattern behind you. It's very colorful. It's all vertical lines. It makes me think of a xylophone. And when you spoke about percussion earlier, I don't think I've ever been in the presence of a real xylophone, just a toy, I think.
Oh.
But percussion must play a really big role in music therapy. I imagine it's something that you can put in the hands of somebody, a client, and they can get an instant sound out of it. And it can be quite gratifying, right?
Yeah, I have a pretty fun collection of different kinds of shakers and bells and things that you tap and things that you rub that have bumpy surfaces. So as you rub a stick across it, it makes a different noise. And just all those different timbres and tones and sounds and physical experiences too. Like quite often you can feel an egg shaker vibrating in your hand. You can feel what's inside that moving around. You can feel when you're playing a drum, those vibrations as well. So offering a variety of musical experiences through sound and feel and texture is a really important thing. So I try to balance a lesson plan when I'm working with a client to make sure that, okay, they've had things that have done this and they've had things that done that, and things where we're not holding anything, and making it, I don't know, tick all those boxes, I guess, offer all those opportunities for them to experience, and then find what they gravitate to. Because for sure they're going to, prefer certain instruments over other instruments. And I'm not always going to offer the preferred choice, but it's nice to know. And then when you want to work on something that's maybe challenging for them, you can kind of pair it with something that is motivating, and they're going to hang in there a little bit longer because it's a motivating instrument or a motivating activity.
You opened our conversation by talking about how pretty much every day is really rewarding, and it's this fun journey you've been on. Do you want to wrap up by talking about just how fun it is, just being in these spaces with your instruments and all these clients, and no 2 days must look the same. It just must be a blast, just being surrounded by color and excitement and sound.
It is most of the time. There are days when I have a headache and I could think of other things I'd rather be doing, as anyone has with their job. But 99% of my days are just watching little faces have fun and knowing that I'm kind of at the front of the fun. And sometimes they're mad at me because I'm making them do things they don't want to do, or I'm pushing them to do something that's challenging. But we always get to a point, we get to an end where we're back on the same page. We're back on the same team. And yeah, I hear a lot of giggles and I hear a lot of little voices make sounds and see people light up, and sometimes get to see parents light up when they see their child, or a teacher, if I'm in a classroom setting, a teacher light up when they see a kid do something that they're like, I didn't know that was in there, or I haven't seen that yet. And that's really exciting. And be like, oh, we did that here. We did it in music. So yeah, I'm really grateful that I get to do this fun job.
Bonn Park is made possible with the support of the Kitchener Public Library and the Kitchener-Waterloo Community Foundation.
Our show is produced by Sarah Geidlinger
And Marshall Ward.
with audio engineering by Sarah Geidlinger.
Bonn Park's original music is by Alan Lung. Harry, still with us? We want to tell you about a fun project that we have. Are you ready?
Yeah.
We have another podcast called An Unscripted Spectacle, Wrestling with Wrestling. Here's Colin Hunter of Kayfabe News to tell you all about it.
Welcome to An Unscripted Spectacle, Wrestling with Wrestling. I'm Colin Hunter from Kayfabe News. Marshall is utterly obsessed with professional wrestling. Sara is utterly perplexed by professional wrestling. On each episode of An Unscripted Spectacle, Marshall and Sara talk with a different guest from the world of wrestling. Promoters, referees, journalists, and current and past stars of the squared circle to talk deeply about the strange magic of professional wrestling that has enchanted Marshall his whole life. Can they turn Sara into a fellow connoisseur of professional wrestling? She'll need some convincing.
I find out who Jimmy Corderas is. Who the heck are you?
Oh, well, that's a good question. For those who don't know, I spent the better part of over 2 decades working in WWF/WWE, mostly as a referee inside the ring.
I have the honor of meeting the magnificent Lufisto. I heard that you were described as the first lady of hardcore. I've just recently found out what hardcore is.
Yeah, thanks to Madman Pondo.
When I've learned that I was going to be inducted, it was like, it is now my time to tell the story of women's wrestling. Because so many times I've heard, oh, this is the first time this happens in women's wrestling history. And I'm like, no.
I learned all about the storytelling and writing process from Tom Casiello.
Yeah, I was in soap operas for 14 years. I was at Young and the Restless last. That was from 2009 to 2011. And so I thought, I'll go in for the interview. I'll be honest with them. If I blow it, I blow it. Not the end of the world. And I was there for 6 years. And I rose up the ranks to managing lead writer. And it was the most insane time period of my entire life.
I got a new skincare regime from RJ City. Checking out your hair, and I wish that mine looked like yours. You have beautiful locks.
Thank you. The secret, this isn't a plug, it feels like an endorsement, is aloe vera. I have it here. I put it on my skin. I put it in my hair. I use the gel. I put a couple drops of peppermint in.
I have a plant right there on my
Good.
fridge.
Cut it open, squeeze it out, and put it, honestly, wherever you want. It's good for you.
I find out that Colt Cabana is just famous enough that he can still buy groceries. And Tyson Kidd tells me all about the People's Elbow. Who knew?
Tyson comes to a complete stop, then brings his leg over the guy like he's going to do a leg drop. But the leg like keeps circling past the guy, and then he drops an elbow on the guy.
Oh, and the elbow represents like all the people of the fans?
That's
like he's been voted, he's going to drop this elbow?
Well, like he started calling himself the People's Champion, and then that move just became the People's Elbow.
And then there's also, as you know, there's the People's Strudel.
Yeah. I mean, there's the People's Eyebrow. There's a lot of the people. Got a lot of people.
So check out An Unscripted Spectacle, Wrestling with Wrestling. Available anywhere you get your podcasts.